the live control room. Okay. Okay. And then we need to share this over here. To share the stream. Let's see. Okay, I don't actually have any idea how to share the stream. So it's on the board. Yep. Testing.
1, 2, 3.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh hell yeah! Welcome to another episode of the Friday Game Group.
And if you've got too much there, then we don't have anybody on the Hangout, so okay. Yeah, right. Let's start it up.
Fire it up. All right.
Hey! Welcome to the Friday Review, everyone. Friday Review of games. No Friday Review of apps today. Why? Because I suck. Rachel Meyer is not here today, and for whatever reason, well, it's not just Ray Tobin. We are in a new place. It's actually Andy Rubin's old office, and I'm not sure if it's malevolent ghosts or possibly Steve Jobs from beyond the grave, just infusing this room with a sense of anti-Android sentiment. But everything just went to hell. There's no way to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, it was kind of a disaster. But I have my hard hat on, so I'll be safe. And
thus signifying that we are under construction.
Exactly. Wait, I need to get me open. Otherwise, this is going to be a very unfortunate. So we're drinking today this Aventinus. How do you pronounce that? I don't
know.
But Weizen Eisbach. So
yep.
Cheers, Ian. I think we need to drink more today than we normally would. Oh, and we're out of focus. Very nice. All right. So got to be careful not to put something too far forward.
What Dan doesn't know is we've replaced his regular beer with ice beer at 12% alcohol.
Holy, wow. That's pretty strong.
Basically, it gets any stronger than this, and you start bottling it in a dead squirrel.
Well, this could be a very interesting Friday review, and we actually have a whole bunch of games lined up for you all, and it's a really good collection. I think across a wide spectrum. We actually have a couple of games that were previously featured on Google Play, but now I think we can talk about the new versions and kind of explain how featuring has changed a little bit as well.
Yeah, so basically we've featured these games, we think really highly of them, and I say that in prelude to us completely ripping them apart on the show today. So why don't we start chronologically with Enosia 3 Children of Carnia.
All right, so Enosia 3 is a KRPG in the truest fashion, and which means for all of you viewers that like all the other KRPGs, it actually is a bit of a retro game. And that being said, the graphical quality in Enosia is really, really very good for this genre. You can't see as much as we can, but on the tablet, it is pretty highly pixelated. But by comparison to a lot of the work we've seen in the genre, it's really a level above that. Some things to note: it does have on the bottom you can see the button of shame, which we can see right away over there on the bottom of the tablet. The other thing we can note is that this is very, very much designed around phones. So you'll see that when we actually. Oh, I don't want to do new game.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. Let's continue my current game. The reason I don't want to do a new game is the game starts off in a flashback. Oh, here is a fun part of the game where we're supposed to kill happy reindeer. So this was not a PETA approved game, I'm sure. But the game is actually pretty fun to play. The thing about it, on a tablet, you notice immediately, is that the controls are not actually scaled at all to reflect a tablet surface. So it's actually this D-pad that you see here on the left is actually kind of difficult to use on a tablet. You see, I've really got to move my finger an enormous amount of distance. The other thing to note, of course, is that it's just kind of a low-resolution HUD, and we don't really expect someone to go through and redo all of the graphics of a game. Although I would love to see Enosia HD, but it would be great to have at least the heads-up display part that users using to interact with the title be higher resolution. So I think if we looked at this game today, we would probably the team would probably come back to them and say, hey, really great, beautiful looking art, but we really want to see the HUD work better on tablets. We really want to see it be higher resolution. So anything else
Absolutely.
You want to add there?
No, but I do want to sort of emphasize what you're saying here. It's very, very easy to look at something on a phone or even like let's say a 7-inch tablet, and it looks pretty crisp and clear. But once you get it up to 10 inches, you're going to see these jaggies, you're going to see this blurriness, and that doesn't really affect the gameplay. And I'm not going to say that it makes the game any better or worse, but it does affect your ability to get featured because the Android Featuring Committee takes tablets very seriously, and we definitely want to see things that are made for tablets. So yeah, don't do what our awesome webcam just did and make your graphics completely out of focus.
Another thing to note about this game is that while it is really great to see this kind of content coming here, it would also be great to see it actually get a touch-based user interface. So you'll see that as I move around, I do have to move around with the D-pad, and when I pick things up, I have to pick things up with an action button. And all of this is kind of unintuitive if I'm used to using everything else on the tablet. Like being able to just tap where I want to go, being able to tap when I want to pick things up. Like I would love to just be able to tap on that gold and pick it up, but instead I have to walk over to it and hit the action button. So there's a lot of things that could be done with a little bit more work, and I'd love to see some of that happen because I think that we're in a transitionary period where there's all this great older content with just a little bit of additional love. It could turn from being something that is appealing to kind of a niche genre to something that has wider appeal. And I think this game is really fun, and maybe killing reindeer isn't everyone's cup of tea, but
But I think you get to kill like crazy long-haired Japanese bad guys later or something, right?
Probably, yeah. I suspect that reindeer are not, in fact, I know from experience that reindeer are certainly not the most tenacious enemy you will face. But I do think it's kind of a funny thing that the game begins with you having to battle reindeer. And you're actually trying to get reindeer leather, by the way. That's actually the goal of the early part of the game. Also, this is another thing that we noticed, is that when the game has an ad, obviously it's not really taking the size of the display into account. So you'll see that ad is really, really small in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, and another thing to think about with tablets, and actually a lot of people do this. You have the tablet ad be really, really small because it's the same size it's supposed to be for a phone ad in inches. And while that may actually make your users happier, it certainly won't add to your advertising revenue. So something to think about.
Yeah, exactly. But I think overall this was one of my favorite KRPGs that I've played on Android, and it continues to be one of the best available. But
yeah, if you enjoyed playing this sort of thing on the PlayStation Portable, for instance, you'll love this game. And the controls and the scheme are actually very similar. But I think what Dan said is important. You can take something from another platform like that, like a game console or handheld console, and port it over directly, and you'll please a lot of people who liked playing that game on that device. But if you want to please the general population of smartphone users and tablet users, you might want to think about being a little bit more touch friendly, especially when it comes to things that can be done far easier with touch than they can with a standard D-pad plus button style interface.
Absolutely, and I again, I think this is one of the best of the genre. I do want to see like HD versions of these games come out, and I think as we go forward, we're going to see a lot more of that. But it's great to see really, really rich, deep content like this coming to Android. Kudos to CommPlus for doing that.
Yeah.
So let's go to our next game. We good?
Absolutely. Although before we do that, I did want to ask you, Dan. Assuming, let's say, for the sake of argument, that I'm a young man.
We'll assume that.
Is there a place where I could go that I could, just feel?
I didn't want to actually put in a pitch for your local YMCA here, but given that I am wearing this outfit, and don't worry, I will not be taking off any clothing. So
I'm just hoping that we get to see Policeman and Indian Chief at some point.
Absolutely. Well, I'll work on that for the future. But again, we are under construction here, and this is my official Android hard hat. This hard hat and this vest actually came from when we were building the stand for Mobile World Congress in Barcelona this year. So this does have some good memories for me, and it's always nice to be able to reuse stuff as I'm desperately searching for new hats to wear on the show.
I love this because Dan's entire participation in the construction of that booth was installing the correct build of software onto all the tablets and phones, but he did need a hard hat.
I did need a hard hat to do that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to give the misleading impression that I actually built the booth in any way. They just wouldn't let me anywhere near the booth without a hard hat. I think knowing my accident-prone nature, that was really what it came down to. Knowing that I'd probably damaged something else in the process. So
quite true. So should we talk about Bagot?
Sure. So Bagot also was featured on Google Play, and which I believe it was Android Market at the time, but
it was. And I remember when it was featured because I remember having a phone call with this developer while I was shopping for cheese for my Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, very good.
At the
That's right.
single Whole Foods in Las Vegas, which, by the way, Vegas not a big cheese town.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. I think it all goes to the high-end restaurants and pretty much doesn't go to the consumers.
Pretty much, although I did get a fantastic coconut milk Gouda.
That being said, though, if you're looking for cheesy stuff, Vegas is really the place to find it. So, I think
that is a completely different type of cheese.
That's true. There's some irony there. So, Bagot, we love Bagot. Let's just say, this is
great. Yeah, I think it's Charlie Price that does this. Great little company. They've got some great artists on staff.
So some things to note is that Bagot does have the button of shame on it. And it's actually used in part of the game. But in order to find out where it's used, you actually have to go click on the Open Faint icon here at the top, and you'll see that now I can actually do this. And it's actually important for this particular release of Open Faint because it's actually the only way to get to the Open Faint settings. So please, Open Faint, which is now GREE, please make another way of getting to the settings because it's actually very frustrating. If someone actually wants to play with an existing profile, this is the only way they can get to it, or change their profile name to something that's not XY32451X. So it's very important to actually make that available.
That you have yours memorized.
Mine is not that. You can see it on the screen. But I actually have my real account in here. So if anyone wants to Open Faint me, that's how to do it.
Is that what it is? Friending you on Open Faint is Open Fainting you?
I think so. Okay, it's either that or that's collapsing in a heap in an open area. I'm not sure.
Could be. Listen, this brings us back to a point that we've discussed many times on the show, which is you're responsible for the contents of your APK. If you choose to use a library that breaks the rules and you don't get featured, it is your fault, right? It's your problem. So, to our buddies over at Hidden Variable, we love this game, but we're not going to refeature it until that gets fixed. I say, seemingly remembering actually that this is on the feature list because we said, oh yeah, these guys are fine. We don't need to retest them.
Probably.
We better go. We better make some calls.
But in any case, these, again, this is really nitpicking, and we're not necessarily going to stop something from being featured because it has this key. But
I'm making a call right now. I'm picking up the red phone.
All right. Whoa, that's over there. This is Andy's old office after all. So
no, then the red phone will actually.
The red phone will actually do something. Be careful when you pick up the red phone. So that's Bagot. There's a lot of really really cool stuff that they've done with this UI. I think this is a really fun way that they've handled a lot of their sharing. I love the way you change languages. I mean, there's really just a lot of really cool stuff that they've done here. So kudos to Hidden Variable. The game is also very good. I don't even want to go into it. You should play it. It's a really, really great game.
You really should. Yeah, it's a great. It's like a Tetris with feelings.
Yeah, and honestly, this is really how we want a game to look on a tablet. You can see it's just crisp and clear. The graphics are sharp. You really don't see any significant evidence of scaling. The game really, really takes very good advantage of this Transformer Prime tablet. And you see there aren't any black bars around the screen. This really is an example of good design in terms of the layout. Let's go to our next game, since we have more to go through this week than normal. The next game we're going to look at, actually, do you want to pick? Because I'm not sure if there was an order I should be going in. So I have them in random order.
No, well, let's go ahead and really quickly go over the second Com2uS game.
Sure.
Oven Break. Because Oven Break, I don't want to spend too long on Oven Break at all. Com2uS has a lot of different teams, and this one, I think we both agreed, is a really nice creative team, but probably not their most professional.
It says Dev Sisters, actually, is the name of the team.
Rock on.
So, I hope that really means that there are women in engineering here. That's cool. So a couple of things to note.
Well, the CEO of Com2uS.
Yeah, it's true, actually. So, but doesn't mean that she's actually writing the games. But
that's true. Well, she never did, actually. She just had dinner with her, and she said she actually was a computer science major, but dropped out as a sophomore to run Com2uS. Literally, nice. she and her husband, it's got to be like 17 years ago now, dropped out of college, and now they've got like 5,000 employees across 4 or 5 different countries.
There are a lot of stories about people who come up with a great idea and then drop out of school, and I was not one of those people, which is why I'm here.
I got the dropping out of school part right, but not the great idea part.
That's right. So one thing to note here about Oven Break, Ginger Brave Run, is that first of all, you can see that it does have black bars on the left and right hand side of the screen. It doesn't take up the full screen. It does not have the buttons of shame, though. So kudos to the team there for actually targeting the latest versions of Android.
I have to admit, the letterboxing is really disappointing to me because the game itself is really crisp. It's really well done. It's obviously been done with vector graphics. It feels like they didn't have to letterbox it. There's nothing there. There's nothing in the game or in the graphics that would make me feel like letterboxing was a necessary choice.
Now, how do we feel about this? Are you enjoying Oven Break? You receive 100 gummies as a reward if you leave a review.
Right, and we're walking a fine line here. You're on the razor's edge here. It is completely against policy to incentivize a particular type of review. Like to say you get 100 gummies for leaving a 5-star review or leaving a positive review, that's a problem. Now, just incentivizing a review is not a problem. It's great that you want people to review your game.
Well, just going to market got me the 100 gummies, which is always nice.
Well, and that's the one thing is that
you can't actually there's no call back API to say I left a review. So it's one of those things where I think as a general rule, you are going to you're telling the user something that's patently false, and so because you can't.
But it was a lot more. It was a lot more egregious when people were saying you'll get 100 gummies for a 5-star review.
That's true.
Honestly, I'm glad to see some incentivization of reviews at the appropriate time in the appropriate way. The one thing that I do have to say about this is they used the god-awful, ugly, old-style Android system dialog as a pop-up for that, and that was a little disappointing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the game.
So, again, the game does run letterbox. I don't really see why. I would say also on a tablet, especially the blur effect that you see. Oh, I forgot. I have to hold down the slide button. You can see I've completely forgotten to play the game, how to play the game in the last 5 minutes where I haven't been looking at it. What I would say is that for me, the blur effect in the background actually gives me a little bit of eye strain on a tablet.
You weren't like a big. What was that game? Or like Braid. You didn't like Braid?
I did like Braid, but I think it's because I was watching it from a distance on my television set. Oops. I'm clearly there are only 2 buttons. We're now experiencing how much I actually suck right now at playing games. But The game is actually really not this hard, but apparently it's hard enough.
So I mean, it's an endless runner. There's a lot of endless runners.
It actually isn't an endless runner. There's actually an end to each level, and there's different. And there's multiple levels. So I would call this a runner. That's a runner. It's
actually, how many truly endless runners are there? Because I think most of the games I call endless runners do have.
I've never seen one.
It's just that you're always running.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, I always think of it when I think about endless runners. I always think about Robot Unicorn Attack, and there is just you will eventually die. The game tells you that that you're going to be in your doom. So I think.
Well, it is called Adult Swim. We don't want to sugarcoat life.
Well, I don't know. It's got a rager in it, though. That's actually my favorite part about the whole game.
So, which brings us to our point. There are games in each genre that have been successful. Mm-hmm. And typically, I mean, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but the one thing that you want to do is when you pick a genre, when you decide that you're going to make a game in a particular genre, make sure that you at least meet the quality bar of the genre that you're in. In this case, it's a Robot Unicorn Attack game, or it's a what's the other one that we?
Oh God, yeah. There's been a lot of them.
There's a bunch of them, but anyway. If you're making a jumping game, you better be better than Doodle Jump. If you make a ballistic physics game, you better be as good as Angry Birds.
I mean, I think at the apex of this genre, I actually think of Wind Up Night as being kind of the apex.
Would you call that
I would call that a runner. Yeah, absolutely. Because
you can't ever back up on Wind Up Night.
You can only back if your character runs into something, he will turn around. But you have no control over the running. You're simply controlling the jumping and the movement. So that's why I call it a runner. But it's sort of at the apex of that genre. In terms of quality, I think he did a great job with that. Another call out.
Shout out to our friend Chris
Pruitt. So, anyways, but yeah, this is a really fun game. They did a really good job with it. I'd love to see them take it a little farther. I'd love to see them take additional aspect ratios into account. That would be really nice, and it's so close to being great, and and honestly, it's again, the blur effect. Yeah, it might be good if they could make it a little bit less obvious on tablets, but again, that's.
I mean, it's definitely a depth of field. Yeah, it's a depth of field. They have a parallax. It could be more.
I do actually find when I'm looking at it from this angle, from this distance, I don't mind it. When I was looking at it like this, which is how I usually play a tablet game, then I actually notice it. It's also part of the reason why I'm doing so terribly at it. Not to make excuses. Let's go to the next game.
Absolutely.
So I think we want to save Saving Private Sheep for the end, just because the title is so funny. Maybe people will stick around for us to actually review it.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay tuned for Saving Private
Sheep.
Did you just say shaving? Anyway. So here's the thing, by the way. We do want to get more viewers for this show, especially more live viewers. So tell your friends about us.
Yeah, especially and your living friends. Those are the ones we want.
Exactly.
Your dead friends aren't very helpful to us.
Can't count them, no.
Yeah, unless they have a computer. In which case, they're sort of okay. So, anyways, so what do we want to go to next?
Well, let's take a look at Weapon Chicken. I think there's a little bit to be said about that.
Well, there is. So Weapon Chicken is using Unity, and you can tell. Actually,
go back.
Let's go back. So if you could switch over. Robert Lee, by the way, is doing our tech today for us, and he's doing a fantastic job.
Yes. Apparently, Robert is not on drugs of any kind. So
he isn't drinking the ice beer either. Although we did get one for him.
This is some amazingly strong stuff.
It is very strong.
Okay, let's go ahead and launch this.
So you'll see when we launch it, you'll see that it has this screen, and actually, this was a bug in an older version of Unity. And it simply made the reason why Unity had this problem was they made the assumption that if you loaded a PNG, it would actually load into a 16-bit bitmap. And the reality is if you're using Bitmap Factory and you're loading a PNG, it's actually going to load into whatever the operating system feels like if you don't actually set some parameters on that. And so what ended up happening is that when we went to Ice Cream Sandwich, we actually made it always load 32 bits for the highest possible rendering quality. So unfortunately...
Was there like a Russian dude making this decision?
Actually, he was French.
I thought it was
for the highest possible rendering quality. So so in any case, so we actually worked this bug out with Unity, and they did update it. And so my general guideline is with Unity, trying to update your title to using the latest version, and you won't have that trouble with Ice Cream Sandwich. As far as the game itself, it has some interesting stuff in it. This is a game that has sharing built into it. You can see it's got Papaya. Again, if you're using a shared library, you have to be very careful because, as a general rule, shared libraries are going to be something you're responsible for. And the game itself is kind of cool. There's a couple things I definitely want to see more optimization for touch. I have 2 controllers with areas, and they actually are scaled pretty well on this device, which is nice, although I'm not sure if that's an artifact of Unity or an artifact of the game design, but that's pretty good. What I would love to see is being able to touch anywhere on either side for the dual controls. I don't particularly
I
see...
think that's really what technology has brought us lately. The onward march of progress has decided that you don't have to touch inside a one specific circle in order to control a dual-stick shooter game on Android. And so those of you who are creating dual-stick shooters should probably take notice.
But some other things to kind of note about the title. It actually you get a bit from Unity is a general rule. One of the things that it does, the later versions actually do handle, and this version is new enough that it actually automatically will handle the not playing sound on the lock screen, which is cool. Whoa! My tablet just decided to say goodbye.
Oddly enough.
Well,
and things were going so well.
I know, they absolutely were.
Yeah,
so I'm going to
indeed. Well, while we're doing that, let's just check over with Robert. So, Robert, what does the live stream look like? Do we have comments? Are people saying things?
Can people hear us?
Are people saying, "Hey, there's a huge echo," or "Things suck," or
sorry,
anything like that? No,
nothing.
No one's saying anything. All right. Thanks to all the none of you that are commenting. That's great.
Do we have viewers? It should say on the YouTube page.
We're using our comprehensive Robert Lee based analytics system here.
Give me a minute here. Get back to
Yeah, pull that up, Robert.
That's right. So we're waiting. We're waiting for the tablet to reboot. So
wow, that did just completely stop.
It did. No, it did. The tablet just
boom.
Yeah, just boom. Well, you know,
it doesn't happen that often.
No, it's kind of unusual. We were pretty much seeing everything going on during this review today. I do believe it may.
No, you were actually on the right page, Robert. You want to go to the. The analytics are underneath. Oh, okay. So we got 33 views. Thank you, all 33 of you.
We love you. So let's go back to Weapon Chicken. We'll continue.
We do get a lot more views over the weekend. Why? This is a great weekend show. A lot of people, they curl up with their loved ones, get a lot of play time in bars and clubs.
Actually, I think everyone is playing Diablo 3 right now. That's why they're not watching
this. That is quite possible. It's funny, on one of our internal Google lists, there's actually a guy who said, yeah, by the way, I just spent 3 solid days playing Diablo 3. Mm-hmm. Like, really? Really? How much do you get paid again? Okay.
So one of the things that Unity does actually not do for you is help to do this kind of UI, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
As a general rule, that I don't know if we want to go into this, but what happens when you press the buy gold button? But more importantly, let's talk a little bit more about.
Let's put it this way: we are concerned about this title, and it's possibly in violation of Google Play Store policies. Dan and I don't make that call, obviously.
Yes.
But we are really concerned that all of our developer partners make sure that they're in compliance, because if you get banned, it's sort of annoying to try and get your account back.
It's really
not a good thing.
No.
In this case, remember that Google Play Store policies require you to use only Google Play as a monetization story for in-app purchases.
Absolutely.
So no PayPal, no random websites, no stores owned by other people. If you distribute it on Google Play, you monetize through Google Play. If you distribute it in some other way, whatever.
Android is an open platform. I think
Absolutely.
that's the key thing. And Google Play is almost as open as Android is.
Mm-hmm. But we downloaded this particular game from Google Play.
Yes.
Because we are shills for the man. And we found some issues. The man whose office this is.
This is our office.
It's our office now. Yes. By the way, what you can't see, all you can see is a white wall, because we were advised to stand against something blank so that we would pop more. But Surrounding us is a veritable cornucopia, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of random toys that Andy left behind because he didn't want them, and the effort of sending an email saying, "Hey, come and get this stuff," was too great.
Actually, what mostly is in this office are a bunch of empty shelves. Let's just make that clear. But they are beautiful.
They are
beautiful
shelves which
these are handmade. I'm convinced, extruded aluminum, and they're absolutely incredible. I want these shelves for my house.
You could if you had a space shuttle.
Yes,
you could put it on these shelves.
Absolutely. I think
spread them out a bit.
Yeah, I think it would actually hold that much. It holds monitors and other random things. So yeah, if you're going to build anything, these shelves are awesome.
And let's not even get into what we found in the drawers. We won't get into it. Let's just say they were historical artifacts of great quality.
Yes, they were. We loved it. Thank you, Andy. So let's go on to.
But no whiskey.
Too bad.
All right.
We needed it today.
Yes, let's move on.
So it's Roaring Skies.
Roaring Skies I like, and you know why I like it? Is because it reminds me of a sort of a weird real-time combination of Raid on Bungling Bay and Steambirds, with a little bit of EarnCon mixed in.
Okay.
Now, this game also appears that it may be in violation of some monetization policies. So, developers, if you're listening, by the way, the name of this developer, Brew Engine. Does that take you back?
Yeah, it definitely does.
It doesn't take me back. I was doing consoles during the Brew era.
There was a time when I was working on Brew, and it was a sorry time. It was. It was in the early days. That was actually when you really did have to do a build for every single device, and the reason you did was that was actually what the carriers and that required who use Brew, and you actually had to send every single one of your titles through QA with a professional QA service. So it was definitely the dark ages, and they didn't understand the concept of a free app. Everything had to be paid, and the revenue shares were actually not nearly as generous for the developer as they are today back then. So it was definitely, I think, we're in a much better time now, certainly in just about every way. Although, and actually the versions of Brew that I worked on also did not allow for multi-threading. So we actually had to use cooperative multitasking in our games, which really, and in everything we wrote, which was very unfortunate and challenging. And actually, we did an incredible amount of kind of a boilerplate thread, fiber mimicking stuff in order to make that work.
Yeah, you do the old save the context and push it and pop it, and
we had
set jump, long jump here and there.
Set jump and long jump was our friend. We also did not have exceptions, among other things. So yes, in any case, let's go back to now stop reminiscing about the bad old days, and things don't always get worse. That's what we've learned back in my time.
So this is a shooter or let's call it an endless shooter because you don't stop shooting ever. But you fly around and dogfight, and there's other people will join you. They're on the internet, and there are planes that fight for you but are not controlled by other players. And things get fast and frenetic. There's also a money system where you can land on your carrier and buy extras. All in all, it's a pretty fun game. It has all the elements of a fun game, and I really enjoyed playing it. It definitely doesn't feel as polished as some of the other ones we've seen.
Well, any time you actually see a game with an FPS counter on it, you know that it sort of feels like it's a little bit in development. That's
this is definitely a hacker game.
And definitely that's one thing I've noticed is that the frame rate does tend to slow down on my device.
So you're controlling it in a completely different way than I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So let me try. So the way I controlled it was by just compass points.
Yes.
But you were kind of like going all over the place. But
it actually, I was just using that to steer because you can steer from all different positions of the joystick.
That's a good point. So if you put your joystick on the plane, then you can just say, "This is where I want to go."
Yeah, but it hides my plane. I can't watch it being shot repeatedly by everything. So,
Not getting shot. These people suck, actually.
yeah, I would say their aim does not seem to be nearly as good as the bullet paths would suggest. Although it's possible that I'm too chicken to actually play the real version of the game. So
You're playing the helper version of the
I think so. Yeah, I
okay.
think that's the only.
So but what you want to do is fly to your carrier, and then you can pick up some speed and some range and other things that, as you did in World War II, you had to buy everything for your plane.
No, well, it was
the
was
way the old feudal knights did.
To use the more popular current term, it was a time of austerity. And we were conserving everywhere we could, and so obviously you wouldn't be very well equipped, and you'd have to get scrap from other planes, bring that back, and then they would melt that down and turn that into weapons for you. So clearly, obviously, we have time compression going on here, but this is an attempt at extreme realism, really.
That's what it was. Huh? That's how World War II worked. So yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, this is a fun game. There's a bunch of things I would fix, like that. Everything's static textures, so the sea, the land, they're all sort of your generic, procedural textures that came out of some random Unix command, and the
I want to know that Unix command.
Exactly.
Random texture.
the HUD is a little off, but really the gameplay itself and the way the planes turn and shoot at each other, and the AI and all the little gameplay pieces fit together really nicely. This game has a very high rating on the Google Play Store, and I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's gone in this game, and I do think once again you do make sure that you are reading through our policies. Another things to note about this game, it is full screen, which is nice in its portrait version. I'm not really sure why this game doesn't support portrait and landscape. To be honest, I think it would work easily well in both. And a lot of things we kind of make the assumption that games will not support landscape these days, or will not support portrait and will not rotate. But it's actually really nice when a game does. And so
there's no real reason for this game to insist on a particular orientation, because the game itself is all about turning your plane every which way.
Yeah, so I would love to see the author do. I'd love to see them get rid of the menu of shame. I'd love to see them make it a game that can rotate. I think that there's a lot, especially on this tablet. It looks really good on the tablet. It'd be really great if people could experience it, in their tablet default orientation, which on Android is typically on a landscape orientation. So.
Yep.
So let's go to our next title.
That would be Tap Blocks, I believe.
Tap Blocks. Now this was interesting because Tap Blocks actually had a strange comment about it, saying that it was trying to get people to buy stuff. And as far as I can tell, outside of ads, it really doesn't do that. But I haven't played the game in extreme depth. Yeah. Tap Blocks is a puzzler, and so let's just get into the game. And the goal is you have to click on blocks that have more than 3. So there we are, and you try to find combinations.
So sort of your standard match 3 or more. So this is sort of like the old Bubble Breaker game that used to ship with some of the old phones, right? It's like you break the bubbles, and what you're trying to do is you don't want to break them until there's multiples, because you get a combo, right?
Yeah, that's and the goal is obviously to be able to continue to keep playing, and to not run out of breakables. And the game also helps you a little bit by giving you these bonuses. So you see, this one here will break that entire row. And so
that was like a pickup type thing?
Yeah, it was just a special block. So so that's part of the way the game actually helps you in this, because the game can get pretty frustrating actually, trying to figure out what you can break. This block is not going to help me at all. For example,
what does that block do?
That will break everything in this row.
Okay.
It will help me minimally. What I'd like to do is get it to go a little farther down, perhaps, where I'm stuck. So that was smart. I was hoping that I would get some more blue pieces around there, but it looks like I'm stuck actually using it at that particular level. But the idea is, obviously at the bottom, there's a whole bunch of places where if I could get this to go a little bit lower, I might actually be able to have it help me out a little bit more. That was not one of those places. But you can see.
This is fun. So
there is some
3,
strategy.
huh? It has to be at least 3.
It has to be at least 3.
Okay,
so
then that's tough.
Yeah, it's actually a challenging game. There's some definite strategy. Whenever you miss one, you see your time actually goes down.
I don't know. I think you backed us into a corner here, pal.
Well, we can always do that. That'll
Unfortunately,
that'll get us a little further. And I would say, the other thing is that there's actually a bonus multiplier. So as we do a bunch of these in order, the music actually turns up, and then eventually you get 2x bonus, and probably beyond that if you're really good.
We were actually supposed to have music this time. I don't. What happened to that?
I'm
not sure. I think I screwed it up earlier.
Yeah, it was. I think
That can be
we're
said
just-
of so many other
I
things.
think we're just really happy that we have sound with us today.
Theoretically,
yeah.
I mean, nobody's complaining about it, but we could just have
It's
33 masochists online.
It's possible. It's possible. You know, we are. It's possible that our show, actually, after all the audio problems we have, is actually only really appealing to the hearing impaired.
That is possible.
Yeah.
No.
So and we do actually go through after this and write and it auto captions it. And if you ever want to read something really really amusing, we definitely recommend you look at what the auto captions what the auto captioning software does. Last year it was just it was comedy actually. I think we should read that auto captioning.
We did.
But there we are, the brainchild of many a Google researcher, and it does produce comic results.
Well, it's not as bad as some things.
No, not as bad at all. Not as bad as,
Yeah.
as the trouble we've had actually putting this Friday review together this
Right.
week. I think that
Yeah.
they're far more successful there.
Right.
But again, there's this is very simple. It's got the ability to remove ads within the game, which is great. It really, I didn't have any real issues with this game.
No, I mean, there's a few, things that we've talked about before, right? So
It has the
there's some
button
share
of
buttons
shame.
here that it would probably be better to actually just do a standard Android share button, because remember, that way you get not just the standard, Facebook, etc. You get the things that your user actually uses to share. So when the next Reddit or Facebook or MySpace or whatever comes along, you're not going to be left behind or needing to update.
Absolutely. I mean, if they really want to share their gaming experiences on LinkedIn, I say, by gum, let them do that.
That is exactly what I do all the time.
You're
I
right.
post my high scores. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
In
it's,
fact,
it's
we
important.
won't hire somebody that doesn't have a gamer score of more than 10,000.
It's a good news. It's a good thing that I think my gamer score is almost
You slipped
there.
in, man.
Yeah, I
You
did.
slipped
I
in.
did. I got in. I think my gamer score is right close.
The sad thing is, though, is what is your gamer score compared to the number of games you bought? own.
That's a good. That's
Because
that's
my gamer score is just an edge over 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
I own more than 100 games because I used to work for Xbox.
Right.
Which, if you do the math, is pretty lousy because every game is
You basically started every game, plink, and then
more or less, yeah.
You get 50 gamer score.
Exactly. It's tough. Well, it's because I spent all of my time playing the Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Yeah, pretty much. That was actually for me. It was Geometry Wars. And
you
you know
go.
what? The really sad thing is I never got all the achievements on Geometry Wars.
I'll tell you
And
why.
Because it was freaking impossible.
No, it's because
That's the reason why.
you really didn't have a good supply of. Oh, okay. I can't actually say it on air.
Yeah,
but
it's good. I think you were.
You didn't have the right botanicals, is what I'm saying.
I think you. Well, I don't know. I actually believe that. I believe that it would take something that was equivalent to a massive dose of caffeine. Would be my only hope for Geometry Wars.
Yeah, all I know is the kids at the college where I used to teach would share these very interesting snacks with me, and that they were the only people I knew that could really ace Geometry Wars. So
there we are. Yeah, I think I've managed to get maybe 80 out of 100 available gamer score or something like that.
Yeah,
Something-
and you pour like 500 hours into it. And, yeah.
Pretty much.
By the way, so this ice block is
Strong.
very strong. Yeah, this is like the port of beers,
Mhm.
which you don't see that, by the way. You don't see beers where they actually arrest the fermentation with the addition of whiskey. But that sounds like an excellent idea, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It does.
all right. We'll get right on that.
So I mean, here's what it actually says on the back of the bottle. Aventinus, I don't know how you pronounce that, has been known to be the most intense and complex wheat doppelbock in the world. This was the case in the past, but not anymore. Recently, Hans-Peter Drexler, brewmaster at G. Schneider & Son, learned and heard stories about some extra special Aventinus resulting from partial freezing during a cold winter transport in the 1930s. He decided to recreate this mistake to further concentrate the beer, and here's what we have.
This mistake.
Yes,
Yeah.
this mistake. So, good
Otherwise
mistake,
known
guys.
as the way you make Applejack, right?
Right, exactly. Let's continue on with actually looking at games.
Okay, so we've looked
I
at Weapon Chicken, we've looked at Roaring Skies.
I believe
think
that
the only thing left is Saving Private
Saving Private Sheep.
Yes.
And I really wanted to love
which I
this
maintain
game.
sounds like something that came out of the San Fernando Valley. But so this is by our buddies at AMA. They partnered with Papaya for this one. Ex-Googlers, Papaya.
Mm-hmm.
it's a really interesting concept, and the execution is really excellent in a lot of ways. I think the way we felt, though, is that it's just a little uneven. So here's how the game works. You have a sheep who is pentagon-shaped and refuses to help himself, I guess because he's a private. But as soon as you get him onto quote-unquote dry land, he leaps up and salutes you.
Yes. And this game, obviously has like a whole bunch of classic things that that we've talked about in the past. One of them is obviously it has giant black borders on either side, so it really wasn't designed
letterbox,
for aspect ratio. It also has the zoom button. I'm going to press this just to see what happens. Let's zoom to full screen. And of course the game closes. That's not surprising.
That's fairly common.
Most games actually don't have the ability to handle screen sizes that change. They all should. Now, what you're actually seeing is that the graphics are totally unchanged when we zoom in. And the reason why is that they're very, very low quality. In fact, it's possible the graphics are actually higher quality now when we're zoomed in this way.
Well, that does sometimes happen. And the reason is that the full screen is an MDPI, whereas the compatibility mode emulates an HDPI device, or a different DPI device, actually. I'm not really sure which one it is, and then zooms you out. And so sometimes the game will select different resources based on that, and they'll actually be higher quality.
Yeah, sometimes it's interesting. Usually, it's just because the game is stretching in different ways. But so this game is an example of also having the menu button of shame, and it's actually important for Papaya. So this is once again a case in which having a third-party library is preventing you from really doing the right thing. However, the zoom button is easy to prevent, and you don't need to do that. You don't actually need to have Papaya to do that. You just need to target a reasonably high SDK version in order to get rid of there as well, and or make sure you support multiple screen sizes. So to talk about Papaya in this game. This is also one of these cases in which Papaya actually does a bunch of stuff in this game that just causes the game to not work very well. And so it's really important when you integrate these third-party libraries to try to make sure that they're actually doing something right. Like I've had Papaya pop up something in the screen that I couldn't get rid of, and I had to close the game, and all sorts of stuff. So it's very, very, I think that I know it's tricky to write a third-party library, but it's very, very important to test all those functionalities.
Now let's be really clear about one thing. We really enjoy third-party libraries. We think that it's very important to have.
It makes a vibrant ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. To have a great ecosystem of social gaming. It's great to see games forming networks. It's great to see people playing with each other. It's just a matter of making sure that these things actually work on the Android platform in the way that users are going to expect and want. And if the game doesn't work well, or if it pops up things at inappropriate times, maybe your game wakes up at some random time and covers up your phone call or covers up your web browser, your email. These are all things that make users upset. It's not about us and what we think. It's that the users are not going to like it, and that's a problem with a lot of middleware. As Dan said, it's very, very difficult. And you would know, right? I mean, you wrote a library that is now being included in a lot of games for downloading. And I remember, I remember distinctly that you said, "Oh yeah, we'll have that done in a week." And I told some people, "We'll have it done in a week." And then they came back and they wanted to lynch me. And I'm like, "Oh, dude, Dan's still working on it." But the truth is, it was just really freaking hard.
Yeah, I think that ultimately in this particular case, a lot of the time is that it just has the developer tested their library against the latest versions of Android, and as a developer, you're kind of dragged apart, you kind of drag along these libraries, especially if they're closed source.
Right.
And to me, that's always I have an aversion to using closed source libraries as much as possible, just because I feel like I'm stuck. I'm trapped and I can't fix things. And
you feel like you're a Windows developer at that point.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
See, that's what I enjoyed about working on Windows. Like, it just wasn't my fault, man.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I actually feel more directly responsible when I'm working on Android than I did when I was
That is true. That is true. You can always go fix the source, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in any case, that's just one thing to note about this game. But it's a cute concept. I would love to see higher resolution artwork. I think that honestly, if you're coming out over a year after Angry Birds shipped, you should use that as your bar. That's when you're putting together any kind of physics puzzler. Say, look, it's got to look at least as good as Angry Birds. It's got to have at least as high resolution graphics as something like Zepto Labs' amazing game of that I can't remember the name.
Cut the Rope.
Cut the Rope. Thank you. That's kind of the bar now. And to me, if you want to compete in the big leagues, those are the games to shoot, at least in terms of graphical fidelity, against. And
I feel like these people did a pretty good job. I mean, there's
great.
Definitely a few points where I'm like, wow, that's a really stellar animation, or that's really stellar artwork. But in general, especially, I think part of it was the pentagonal sheep that does nothing. I don't think he even blinks.
Yeah, I think part of that is like I should get the feeling that he's afraid. Obviously he's a pentagonal sheep. They should have some character, and also though just like the text is really low resolution. A lot of the graphics are really low resolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this looks like it was designed for a phone of 2 years ago, and honestly, we're no longer there.
That is a really big problem. I mean, all the devices this year that are high-end are shipping at 720p. Asus announced a 1080p tablet. It's just going to get worse in that sense. And
I mean, the thing is that this game really has HVGA graphics. This is not even designed for last year's phone. This is designed for the phone of 3 years
What's
ago.
really tough about it too is that I believe these graphics were originally sourced as vectors.
Yeah.
If you look at it, these look like they came out of Illustrator or a similar vector program.
A lot of them do, at least.
And that's where you want to probably actually keep the vector artwork and bring it. So, for instance, Bouncy Mouse did this, and I think Baggett did it too, where you actually keep the artwork in Illustrator or in SVG or one of these other vector formats, and then render it out for the appropriate display size when you bring it in, or even use the Android vector engine if that works for you.
Yeah, I definitely this would be a good target for doing something in OpenGL. You could certainly do that. The problem with OpenGL is that you're going to want to take advantage of anti-aliasing. So if you use OpenGL to render, you're going to want to render to a surface and then rescale it. So it's not a perfect solution for OpenGL. But definitely, and there's even little things like I love the fact that he's actually balancing on this tower here. But I'd kind of love to be able to kind of mess with him, and I definitely want him to not just
see now you're just asking for
I know.
You have all sorts
but I think that
I'd
really
love it if this actually spewed money every now and then.
But I think that in the terms of like the level when we get to these puzzlers, the level that of engagement they're now demanding, I think these are the kinds of things people should think about. It's how to make everything feel really interactive.
Well, you got some tough competition out there, right?
Absolutely.
And you should remember that. I mean, the truth is, this year, so Dan and I connect with a lot of game partners, and this year, the people that we're talking to most are coming from PlayStation Network and XBLA. So you've got people that are used to programming Xbox Live games, are used to programming PlayStation games, and they're coming into this market, and you're really going to have your game, I think.
Yeah, quite literally. And, again... this is, it's.
Oh! Look at that! What happened?
Exactly. I actually, what a waste of wool. That's kind of cool.
I like this game's sense of humor. It's cool.
It does have a really good sense of humor. Oh. So I was trying to see if this actually helped here. Looks like that will work better.
There you go.
So, but in any case,
I love the pop out sheep. I mean, that guy kills me every time.
I know. It's very impressive. I don't know another sheep that could do that. No. All right, since the alcohol is starting to take effect, I think it's time for us to be wrapping up our session. It's, when you've had half a beer and you're feeling like, okay, I've had 2 or 3, that's something very strong.
That is yes, that's the equivalent of about 3 beers, isn't it?
In that bottle, yeah, exactly. All right, so. Thank you once again for joining us for the Friday Review. We're, again, coming live from Andy Rubin's former office here in Building 44. We're actually overlooking the Android statuary out in front, which is very exciting. It's great to see. We see people taking pictures out there. Certainly, if you're in Mountain View, you're welcome to come by, go in front of the statues and take pictures. It's very fun. They're very cool looking. They're made out of giant things of foam, so they're fun. Just don't step on them. And
every now and then they float away.
Yeah, we did have a great time during a rainstorm where the Eclair
became a canoe.
became a canoe. But it is great to be here, and hopefully we'll get to be here every week, and we're going to try to suck even less next week.
We are. Actually, we do have a budget. We're going to buy some studio lights.
Whoa!
Yeah. We've got some studio lights coming.
You mean
We've
the
got
work
some
light
better
that we
cameras
had?
coming. We've got this thing that you bought at Home Depot that you normally use to...
Hey, that was an incredible value.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And honestly, these webcams are pretty awesome for webcams. I'm
No,
totally
for
impressed.
webcams, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, go webcam developers. But in any case, I think the goal is we're going to try to get funky with this. And you saw our sizzle reel. There's lots of action that's going on here on this show.
But we're getting about 5,000 views a week, and we want to get up to 20,000. So let us know what's wrong. Let us know what you think that we should do.
Yeah, do we need more
tell your
entertainment?
friends.
Do we need more special guests? Do we need more comedy?
Do we need less comedy? Do we need less Dan Galpin? I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Do we need more beer? Let us know.
Bingo.
Do we need less beer? Let us know. So
actually, if we need less beer, don't mention that. Actually, if you wouldn't mind, we got to keep this thing going.
That's right. That's true. And actually, after the technical challenges we had putting the show together today in our new facility, I would say that
things did not go well until I started drinking.
Exactly. We proof positive.
Bingo. All right. It's been great, you guys. So the Friday app review will be back next week with the same slate of apps because we know that everything got completely screwed up. The Friday game review will also be back with a different slate of games. So please make sure that you go to our moderator page and vote on what you'd like to see. Let us know if there's anything we could be doing better or if there's anything you liked or didn't like. And other than that, we will see you next week. So
so long.
Take care.
And have a great weekend.